Thank you, Steve, for joining us on this. I think back to uh, last September, actually, I really enjoyed getting to have some good conversation with you. And that was awesome to have, another person that I could hear some cool creative ideas from. And I think that what you and Brown Jordan are doing right now is exciting and something that, is really keeping Brown Jordan very relevant and innovative. And I just think that was a great time. I think back to that and that
Thank,
conversation.
thank you.
So I thought, this would be an awesome opportunity to get some more people to hear from you and kind of where you come from and how you're involved with Brown Jordan. And so, yeah, that was kind of the beginning of this idea. So first, I'll kick it off. I don't know if you have a cocktail with you right now or what your favorite cocktail is. I'll share.
So I live very remotely. I live at the southernmost tip of the eastern shore of Virginia. And there's this winery called Chatham Winery. So my cocktail in a classic Brown Jordan branded glass is a glass of Chatham Winery Cabernet. So, and while I've been home, I've been sheltering in place since March 14th. So my wife reminds me daily that I have one of these every night. So I'm having one with you guys tonight. What's great about it is also on my desk is a old school branded coaster too. So you'll see, Caitlin calls my office the time capsule. So you'll see I have a lot of branded things. So yes, I do have a cocktail, a glass of Chatham Vineyards Cabernet in a Brown Jordan branded wine glass.
Perfect. Well, I might be breaking our normal rule of in the showroom having something, but I thought I'd join too.
Oh, you, yes.
Yeah. So cheers.
Cheers.
So, I think what I kind of wanted to start with is just, you have a very interesting background and history with Brown Jordan, and if you could kind of tell everybody how you got involved and how that began.
Sure. So for me, it's telling this story is always a little bit of a struggle because it's really about the brand and it's really about Brown Jordan. So I tell the story because I think it shows what a cool company Brown Jordan is, what kind of people they are, what the organization really stands for, and I think it's a story of inspiration. So I went to undergraduate school on a basketball scholarship. When I graduated, against everybody's wishes, everybody in my family wanted me to go to law school, and I applied, got accepted, and was knew that I would not be very good at it. So this was in 1978. So I clearly am aging myself here, but I decided to go to design school in New York. I went to FIT, and I wanted to study visual merchandising, and I wanted to study textiles and fabrics. While I was there, they had a contest for to decorate the Christmas window for Saks Fifth Avenue. And if you won, you got to mentor under Andrew Steinmetz, who was like one of the, he was in the 60s and 70s and into the 80s, was the famous Saks Fifth Avenue display window guy. So against all odds, I was a little older. I came from a different background, bunch of people from the Upper West Side. And back then, there was nothing like we know now. There was glue, staples, poster board, and ingenuity. So I designed a window called Snow Caps in the Summer. And I used, from my parents' home, I used a Walter Lamb bronze lounge chair. I didn't really understand what it was at the time. I just thought it was cool. And so I against all odds, I won. So I got to that. And when I met Andrew and I got to mentor under Andrew and spend some time with Andrew, he said to me, not, remember, I'm 22 years old. And he said to me, by the way, I think you like to be motivated. And I think that one of the things that you have that I've not seen in very many young people is how, you like to be inspired. He said, you should reach out to Brown Jordan. So I went and I said, I don't want to do that right now because I want to make sure that I'm strategic about it. So I went and got a job at a really high-end, who your dad knew him, really high-end outdoor furniture store called Ebers in North Plainfield, New Jersey. And I talked them into carrying Brown Jordan. At that time, Brown Jordan was not available at a lot of retailers. It was really big with the A&D community with Bloomingdale's. And over a course of time, make a long story short, took 9 years. I became more and more enamored with Brown Jordan over the years. I started writing Brown Jordan letters. There was not even fax machines back then. So I started writing Brown Jordan letters. They never answered me. And then one day I got a call from the then president and said, you're not going to stop writing letters, are you? And I said, no. And they offered me a job as a sales rep in the worst market in the country, which happened to be Washington, D.C. So 8 days later, I packed everything I could fit into 2 cars, including a wife, a 5-year-old, and a 100-pound Labrador Retriever. Everything else we left behind, and we moved to Virginia and started our journey July 8th, 1990. So this July will be 30 years for me at Brown Jordan.
That's great.
So story in as short as I can make it.
Yeah, that's a great story. I mean, I think just showing that passion that you had and going for it is awesome.
I mean, I mean, Caitlin will tell you, I write, every morning I write story of the day, and I tell them stories from the office, and I tell them stories about old collections. I tell them stories about why we did these collections. I tell them about Richard Fenier and other things that we've done over the years. And during this time, as I've sheltered in place and worked from my office, I travel a lot, and especially last year, more than ever. One of the things that has been a benefit to me is to be in my office and to see all the things that I've accumulated over the years and see all the things that we've done. It has given me a renewed enthusiasm for who we truly are as a company, as people, and as a brand, because there's no other company on this earth in our category that has a history and a legacy that still to this day, and you said it at the beginning, we're still relevant. We're still the industry leader. And that, to me, for whatever small, little, insignificant part I've had in that, that's what means more to me than anything.
Yeah, so that kind of, I was just about to ask too, what are some things that you feel like, with the time of reflection that you've had and seeing all the different things over the years, what are some things that you feel like really makes Brown Jordan unique, or what draws you to, what they do and what kind of inspires you with that?
I think number one are the people. And I think that the brand is contagious to everyone, whether it be whatever position they have within the organization. I think the brand history, legacy, story, who we can be, who we want to be, who we aspire to be, I think that's contagious to everyone. And if I can play a part in that, then that's important to me, number one. Number two, I think the thing if you want to go back to, and we're careful not to do that. We understand our legacy, we understand our history, but we don't want to live in the past. But the one thing we have learned from our past is that Robert Brown was a visionary about innovation, about trying new things, about pushing the envelope. And I think the thing that I'm the most proud about from our organization, besides the people, is that in every aspect of who we are, whether it be product design, whether it be sales, whether it be marketing, no matter what it is, we're constantly looking on a daily basis to be better. We don't rest on our laurels. We are constantly looking to what's the next thing, what can we do to be better at. And then in the end, when it's all said and done, it's the beautiful furniture. It's the breadth of the line. It's the customability of the line. We are on trend as far as colors are concerned, fabrics are concerned. You know, we're fortunate enough to be on a lot of other industry things that we do, that we learn things from a fashion standpoint and from a fabric standpoint and a textile standpoint and a frame standpoint, where we actually spend, I mean, I spend a tremendous amount of time, the organization spends a tremendous amount of time on developing a color. And I think that in many instances, you know, although a lot of other people do some really cool things, they don't spend the time on it that we do to make sure that everything that we do, whether what we put out marketing wise, what we put out sales wise, what we put out product wise, is absolutely, as we would call, on brand. So I think that that's what really differentiates us and makes us separate. First, it's the people. Second, it's believing in the history and the legacy. And third, it's when it's all said and done, it's really about the product. And our furniture is, you know, as you would attest, it's just beautiful. The way we make our furniture, and there are things that we do in the manufacturing process that no other company on this planet does. And I'm proud to say that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know we've had Brown Jordan for ever. And I think we always have really, really positive feedback from people. And, you know, we constantly have people that said, oh yeah, I got it from you 30 years ago. And, you know, it's something that we'd like to see them maybe a little more often than every 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
With their furniture, but it's kind of a nice, I mean, it's a badge of honor that they can say that. And it's also just shows how timeless it is, that they even look to like hand it down to their family, and as they're looking to upgrade to something different from Brown Jordan too.
I had a gentleman call me today, and he wanted to get replacement cushions for his furniture. So he talked to me about it, and then he said to me, well, I know you don't make the furniture anymore, so I'm hoping you make the cushions. He goes, one of my chairs, you know, the painter, they were painting the house and they got paint all over it. And I said, so send me a picture of it. He sent me a picture of it, and it's Venetian. Still one of our top 5 selling chairs. I called him back up and I said, I'm going to give you somebody where you can purchase it from. And guess what? We still make the chair. And he's like, no, I just need the cushions. There's no way you make the chair still. And I'm like, no, we still make the chair. It's one of our top 5 sellers still to this day. And the guy was just blown away by the fact that not only could he get replacement cushions, but he could still get the chair.
Yeah, that is a unique, a unique thing to be able to say, for sure. I was pretty inspired when I went through the showroom this year, and I actually moved to a new house, and so I had to kind of adapt what furniture I had, and I ended up getting a Walter Lamb dining set.
Oh, did you?
And I'm very excited about it. We've gotten like a couple warm days here in Chicago to be able to sit at it, but I was very inspired by it, and I'm excited to say that I'm gonna get a picture soon, but our house is getting painted and trying to get some greenery out there, so I don't want to totally do the money shot yet, but I'm excited about it.
Oh, you should send it to Kaylin, and Kaylin will send it to marketing. We'll put it on Instagram for you. We'll, you know, anything you want, we'll do something for you on it as it relates to that.
Sounds good. So I think, you've been touching on some different things with what makes Brown Jordan great. I think a good segue from that is, you have a lot of history with fabrics and just design in general. And I'm just gonna ask, what do you feel like creates good design?
I think it's, I'm very, I think it's the thing that I would say that most creates good design is come where I learned this lesson was in Chicago, that market, in my younger years. And when I first started going, I would see all the other outdoor furniture companies. I would walk by them, and I'd go into Brown Jordan. I'd feel so fortunate that what did I do to be part of this organization and part of this team? And I would watch how people would stop and look and what are they doing now? And then, especially in my younger years at Brown Jordan, I mean, we just dominated the design awards. It was just year after year after year that we would win those awards. And some of those collections are still big contributors today. So here's what I think is good design as an organization, as a brand. It's a point of view. It's not copying. It's making sure that you have a distinct point of view. This is what we think it is. This is how we want to present it, whether it be photography, whether it be in how we market it, whether it be the story that we tell about it, whether it be when we market it, when we tell that story, how we present it to you as one of our industry partners, how we help you present it to a consumer, an end user, a client. I think that for me, the most important thing as a brand that we have an obligation to everyone is that we have a distinct design eye and a distinct point of view. And I am proud to say that I think it's crystal clear, more so than any place else on this earth, when you go to Merchandise Market in Chicago and you walk around and you walk into Brown Jordan, that there is a clear path and point of view. So that I feel pretty strong about that.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me as well.
I can.
Okay, good. Had a couple people wandering around, so but yeah, that sounds great. I think it makes a lot of sense that it, Brown Jordan stays true to the brand and is very, it is very clear. I mean, I've experienced that too as I walk through the showroom at the Merchandise Mart. It is very clear that there is thought put into the brand and the direction that it's going, based off of how everything is represented there, which is, it is inspiring. I enjoy going to that show because, I get to see what's new, and I do always look forward to going into the Brown Jordan showroom because it is very well put together and represented.
Thank you. We spend many hours how it all fits together, what the journey is, what the story is, thinking it through. The other thing that we do, which is very important, is that we're really big collaborators. We bring other people from the organization in to the process, to make sure that we're collaborating on what's our best foot forward.
So I'll ask another question. It's a little bit louder up here because we have a couple people walking around. So I'll try to ask another question and then I'll mute myself. But I was going to ask, what do you have a favorite Brown Jordan collection over the years, and why? Could you elaborate a little bit on why?
So yes, so I've got quite a few, and so our brand director, the head of marketing, called me, and she wants me to do some shots with me in some of the collections, and I've got 5 different collections at my home. But clearly, my favorite has to be Walter Lamb. It's what brought me to Brown Jordan. You told me about it was my passion project last year in bringing it back in a more innovative way, a more what would be hip and now and cool now. So I probably have 5 or 6 that I really am a big fan of: Venetian, Southampton, some that have been discontinued over the years. But if I'm being completely upfront and honest, it's Walter Lamb, because it's what brought me to Brown Jordan originally. It's what my parents had. It's what I have right outside my office, and it's got that whole story that is a cool story that really skyrocketed the brand originally. And what I think I like about it most now is that when people bring things back, no matter what it is, it's always a dangerous process, because you could look like a tired old North Carolina furniture company that wasn't creative. We did it with innovation of a tabletop, innovation of materials, innovation of cooler, hipper, more fashion-driven ropes. So I think we did it. It's a great celebration of our 75th year. It's a great collection for the 75th year, and it's it's doing unbelievably well for us as a company on every segment of business that we have. So if I'm being truly pure about it, it's Walter Lamb, because it's what brought me here.
Well, I guess I invested in a good collection then.
I think you did, yes.
So, and it was really cool. I think getting to see one of the old original versions of it in the showroom was a really unique thing too, to actually see the patinaed furniture. And I know it got a little bit of restoration, but it was very cool to see that and see how that can be brought back into a modern, with more modern materials even, and and being able to replicate it in such a cool way.
Oh yeah, that chair was 70 plus years old that you saw. So actually our director of marketing, she found that brand manager, and we joked around about it when she found it, because she bought it, and I said, she called me, she's like, oh my God, this is not inexpensive. And I'm like, it's probably more than you'll spend on patio furniture for one chair in the history of your life, because vintage Brown Jordan's worth a lot of money.
Brett, I think you're muted.
He might be talking to a customer.
Got it.
Yes, talking to a customer.
We get it.
And I can lead you into another thing that I was curious about too. Just to hear a little bit more of your creative process, kind of what you do, either on a daily basis to be creative, or how it leads into creativity at work, just some of that personally and how it relates to work for you.
Sure. So for me, it's really about a couple different things. Number one is collaboration. So I have close relationship with Richard Fernier, and they're the talent, and varying over the years, Michael Smith, Michael Burridge, and a bunch, the really talented designers. Even who we work with at Glen Raven, just some really talented people. So I think we have a good respect for each other, and a good collaboration that we do that I think is, pumped out some really cool things. On a personal level, there's a lot of things that I do, like, I do stuff at SCAD, and there's a lot of different other things that I do sort of to keep myself listening to young people, making sure that I am plugged into everything that I need to be plugged into. I'm big on networking and asking questions. But what Andrew Steinmetz told me once was, which is something I've kept with me for forever. He said to me, I'm going to teach you some things, but this is like sports. You either got it or you don't. And so you naturally have that skill set and you naturally have that talent, or you don't have that talent. You can't teach design, you can't teach taste, you can't teach those type of things. You either have those or you don't. So for me, I'm inspired by nature. I'm inspired by just looking at things a little bit differently than most would. I'll pick things up. I'll put them in my office here. I mean, I've sent them to Caitlin over the years, over the time, and she's seen like, little buds of ideas that have sort of sprouted into other things. I'm big on, I'm on a couple of panels from a fashion standpoint, so I'm big on that kind of stuff. And I just think if I was born with anything, I was born with an eye as it relates to color and as it relates to forward thinking that way. So I constantly am like pushing, like, what's the next thing? How could I mix these colors? I probably drive the factory crazy because I'm mixing colors all the time with them and Pantones, and they're sending me samples and we're tweaking them. So I just think it's, I don't think we're difficult to deal with, but we don't buy off the shelf. We give the fabric companies and everybody else that we deal with, we give them what our point of view is, how we want it. We're pretty clear about it, about how we communicate it. And then we just think it through. Like, for instance, I'm getting close to ready on the color for 2021. And I've probably been, which Caitlin can attest to, I've been bouncing this thing around for 9-10 months. So it's just a matter of listening, collaborating, taking time. I look at old. I get inspired by vintage, and then I'm really inspired by women's fashion, especially in Europe, because I think they're 12 to 18 months ahead of us. So I look at that and I watch that, and if I'm thinking of a color and I'm seeing it pop up in Europe, I know we're sort of on the right track. So without getting too long-winded about it, that's kind of how we think about it.
Sounds good. I think, I don't think you're getting too long-winded on it. I think it's interesting to hear for sure. And, I was kind of like pairing with that. I was also kind of interested in, it sounds like you were kind of touching on this a little bit, but like, what do you feel like you have done, maybe at home or like during this time to stay creative and to keep kind of pursuing life and everything?
So it's been interesting. So I travel a lot and I work a lot of weekends. I do a lot of weekend events. Like last year was probably the worst or the most I've ever done in my career. And my wife is from a big Italian family, and she's one of 7. We have 37 nieces and nephews, and they're all getting married. They're all like in their late 20s, early 30s. They're all getting married. So there's always weddings, and they always laugh, and they're like, we can't get married in March, April, or May because Uncle Steve can't come because I'm so busy traveling around. That's not been the case this time. So when I first started staying home, it was all about trying to figure everything out, like everybody else. Like, well, what does this mean, and how do we do it? The thing that I do now is there's 2 things that I do. So every morning, when I get up, the day sort of, you don't get to drive your day in most cases. It's more driven by the events of the day. But where I am pretty disciplined is 2 things. mental health, and creativeness. So what was happening when you're a 64-year-old man who played all these sports over the years, I would come in the office and by the time I got out, by the end of the day, I was in tremendous pain because my legs were locking up, my hip was locking up. So one thing I do is I'm very religious about, I live at the beach, so I'm very religious of walking every day, making sure that I get that inspiration and that exercise, and I get to clear my mind. The other part that I do is I do this. So I have this call that I do every day at 3:30 with marketing. So I'd say 90% of the time between 2:30 and 3:30, I shut things down. I don't look at email. I don't answer the phone, and I work on creative in my office. And I work on fabrics. I work on finishes. I work on design. Like right now, I'm working on a whole new category for us that I just worked on the last hour before that call. So I'm pretty religious about 1 hour every Saturday morning and 1 hour every day between 2:30 and 3:30, where I'm the world's not going to come to an end if I don't answer a phone call or I don't answer an email. I get up off the chair, I walk around, I go to other parts of my office, and I work on what I truly love, which is, the design side of it, the color side of it, the inspiration side of it. So I make sure that I break my day up that way because quite honestly, the first couple of weeks, I was getting wrapped up just like everybody else and really just working out all day, getting a glass of wine and watching the news and not sleeping. And so then I was like, you got to change this thing and you got to figure this out. So for me, the way I figured it out is to make sure that my mental health is okay by walking and being outside and listening to the waves, and then spending that hour every day and on Saturday mornings in my office, working on cool creative stuff. I do another thing too, which every morning, actually Caitlin told me this, your office is like a time machine. And so that's what happens when you've been around this long. So every morning I'll write a story of the day about, usually it's about product. Sometimes it's about experiences, but it's about product, and it's about collections that were introduced, when they were introduced, why they were introduced, what they meant to the company then, and what they mean to the company now, how they led to other things. And then I always end it with, what I feel could be valuable lessons that we could take from that. And I just think it's a way to keep the team together, to keep everybody sort of like, I think they look forward to them. I think they like to hear about them. I think they're somewhat inspired by them. So when I get up I purposely, except for one, and I've been doing this now for probably 5 weeks, I don't think about them until I walk in here and I look around and go, what am I going to write about today? So I just start looking and poking and picking, and then I just decide that that's what I'm going to write about. So that's something that really gets my day started off, where I feel like, okay, I was able to share some experiences from my past that I could sort of pay it forward, if you will.
That's cool. Do you have any plans yet for what you're going to do with what you've written, or is it more just a personal?
It's just more, I don't know that I'm going to do, I haven't really thought about that. I would actually take that direction from, if it ever got to that, from our marketing team. I just do it because I feel like there's so much information that I've picked up over the years, because I'd asked a lot of questions and I've been interested, and I was very inquisitive about it. And over the years, it's been a great time. It's been 30 years, and there's just so many experiences that, without being self-absorbed about it, I think it's important to share those times and share those stories, because it's what makes a company, it's what makes the moral fiber of a company, it's what makes an organization. So I do it for the people that I send it to, because they respond positively, and they learn things that very few people know, because very few people have asked, and I'm probably the only one around still from those days that can even tell those stories. So I do it for those reasons.
Cool. Well, it's great to hear. You know, you definitely have been very invested in it for a lot of years, and you know, I'm sure that. I mean, I'm sure I'd be interested to hear some of those stories here and there, but you know,
I'll leave that to Jalen.
whatever you want to do with with it. I was gonna phone a friend and ask Caitlin if she has any thoughts or anything that she wants to ask. That since she, I know, has worked with you a lot over the past year, just, you know, if she has anything that she can think of that I'm not asking or missing, that would be cool for other people to hear about.
So I think one of the reasons I love Brown Jordan so much and working with Steve is because it's a brand that continues to have a lot of heritage, a lot of really cool collections that have been in the line for years and years because they are so classic. But the other part of Brown Jordan that I love, and this is the part that Steve has the hand in, is how we're able to stay relevant from a fashion perspective year after year after year. So Steve was talking about how he does these stories of the day. And they're great because he did a week that was 80s week, which I loved, because he talked about a lot of the styles that we brought in the 80s. Some of them are still in the line today, but we also had a lot of relevant colors back in the 80s that are now coming back into play now. So think like your peaches, your light blues, your light purples that we're seeing a lot in fashion. So one of the things that I love about Brown Jordan that has drawn me to the brand has just been the fact that we've been able to stay relevant for so long, and we have this really cool heritage about us, but we are able to continue to push the boundaries in terms of color and design that keeps people interested, especially for, you know, the millennial consumer. We're a much different buyer, a much different, you know, demographic that's ever been a consumer before, and we have the largest amount of buying power. So it's really awesome to see Brown Jordan be able to stay relevant, even though it is a brand that's just been around for a very long time.
Well said. I think also it for me, I'm just a vehicle of telling the story. I guess, for lack of a better word, I'm the historian. It's really about the company, and it's really about the people, and it's really about the brand. I've had some cool things that have happened, and I've had some cool experiences that have happened that I never would have dreamt back in, you know, the late 70s when I started writing those letters, and Brown Jordan sent me to what then was Outdoor Furniture Siberia, Washington, D.C., and said, make it or break it. But the reason I'm still here is because of the brand, and it's because of the company. It's because of the experiences and the people that believe in the brand, and the core value of an organization that is brand driven, mostly because of the brand, but mostly because of what the product is. And the product is beautiful. The product is, you know, we introduced 2020 recently, Oscar. To this day, all these years later, we're still relevant. We're still pushing the envelope. We swept every design award there was at market. To this day, all these years later, we're still people chasing at us from every corner of the world, people coming at us, people, you know, coming up with some great ideas and great things. To this day, we are still the most well-known, well-respected brand in the world as it relates to the category that we have. And that's a testimony to the people in the organization that I just get to tell the story, but it's the people in the organization that build the story and keep the story consistent. And I think and I think it's, for me, to sometimes it's such a serious thing that we stay relevant, and we stay relevant in this time, and are proud of our past and proud of our heritage, but it's not who we are. And I think that so many companies and so many different, I've done a lot of studying about this, about brands that were a brand that are not a brand anymore, and whether cars, luggage, well, I could talk about that for weeks on end. But one of the things about Brown Jordan is we have pushed through that. And you said it perfectly, Grant, when you talked about coming to see us in Chicago and the time we sat at that dinner. To be able to have your dad feel that way, and then you feel the same way, is a testimony to everybody in this company and what we're able to do from a brand standpoint.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. I think, brands that exist for a long time, that have a lot of history, that can also, mostly stay the course. Everybody has little hiccups here and there, but I think to be able to, see that, and then even for us, we have a lot of core values and a lot of history ourselves with trying to be authentic in our store. And, I think it's really nice when, even myself can, when I'm talking to someone about Brown Jordan, can just have the confidence in it as well. That it's timeless, and that it also really holds up. I think that's a really nice confidence boost to working with everybody. And even when we have new people that are, new salespeople that are trying to break into a culture for us that is, heavily knowledge based, it's a product that's, they have to brush up on, and they have to know their stuff for sure, but they also can gain confidence almost instantaneously, because we all that have been doing it a long time can really, we show how much confidence we have in it. And I think that just, leaks out to them too. And that's a really nice thing. And I can't say that about every last product that we've ever carried. So, it's nice to have the heritage of it too. So, I think, I don't know if there's anything else that you feel like talking about directly, but I know, I appreciate the time that you've taken. I think I've gotten through a lot of the questions that I was hoping to ask. So I appreciate you answering all those.
No, I just would like to end it with we met in the summer, and, I got to travel a lot because I've been much more on the creative side over the years, but, we met in the summer, and I'll end it with this. We're proud to be represented in waves. And that, I think that is where, that's where it's all said and done. It's the partnerships that we have, the relationships that we have, and having phone conversations like this, and being able to, I think a great testimony is to have a second, third generation come in and have the sons and the daughters feel the same as the fathers and the mothers about a company. I think that means we've picked the right relationships, we've picked the right partnerships, and we're doing it the right way. So thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that, for sure. And it's been a great partnership, and definitely excited for it to continue.
Yeah, me too.
For a second.
Okay.
But thank you very much for your time, and thanks everybody for joining in. I hope that it was enjoyable because, I definitely think Steve has a great history and it's an interesting one for sure. And, I appreciated getting to hear a lot of that history this last fall, and it was fun to be able to share it with some other people too.
Remember, it's all about Brown Jordan, guys.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye.